What's up, everyone? It's me, your boy Ryan Flowers, aka Clutch Sports Talk, and we're back with another video today. The last video I dropped, we were talking about the AFC North, which is arguably the best division in all of the National Football League. And then arguably, we can talk about the AFC South today being the most improved division. It's one of my favorite divisions in all the National Football League. A lot of young talent, especially at the quarterback position there. So we got lots to dive into. But before we do that, make sure if you haven't already subscribed to the YouTube channel, do so now, man. I'd appreciate that. And also, if you like the content, hey, man, just drop a comment. Let me know what's up, what you want to see next, or just let me hear your thoughts too. I appreciate that as well. So we'll just get straight into it. So AFC South, like I said, man, it's one of my favorite divisions to watch, even last year. If you go back and look at some of my archived videos or even content on like social media, I was very high on a lot of the play here in the AFC South. Now, the Texans have been a team that I've been on for the last couple of years, even though before CJ Stroud, before DeMeco Ryans was there. So I really love what they were able to do last year, and the things that they're going to be able to do this year. And we'll talk about that shortly. The Colts, of course, young quarterback there. We'll talk about him, and then the Jags and the Titans to round out. So, but again, why this division is so exciting for me is because quarterback play, right? I really love good quarterback play. And there's an abundance of this here. I think some guys are a little bit more boom or bust. Some guys, you're looking at them and you're like, wow, this guy could be the next, up and coming or face of the National Football League, because they're so young, right? So, but the AFC South also has a really, really talented positions along other besides the quarterback play. Excuse me, I got tongue tied there. You got great wide receivers, offensive lines, the defensive side of things looks really good. So AFC South overall looks pretty solid. So, but first things first, we'll start with the reigning division champs, the Houston Texans. Now, by far my favorite team in the National Football League. I mean, literally, it is. I mean, I love what they did last year. Rookie head coach DeMeco Ryans comes in. They get a playoff berth. They win the division. And then they actually win a playoff game, right? So really good things for them, positive. I mean, we'll start with the quarterback play. CJ Stroud was phenomenal. Rookie of the year, right? Offensive rookie of the year there. Will Anderson on the defensive side, I believe he won defensive rookie of the year. So, how they got those two guys last year in the draft, man, it's just kind of like the football gods just said, I'm gonna make Texans good again, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, so and then they didn't stop. They went into the offseason here. They added Danielle Hunter, another defensive edge rusher, a little older in the tooth, right? But he's still got some left in the tank. I think he's an improvement from what they had last season. So you pair him on the other side with Will Anderson, you might see a little bit more chaos, at least for offensive linemen and the quarterbacks who are going to be probably getting sacked by those two gentlemen there. Their secondary is really, really good. I love Petrie. I love Stingley Jr. I like what they do there. But offensively, listen, the big headline is Stephon Diggs. Now, I have some mixed feelings about that, right? With Stephon Diggs joining this team. Do I think he's a number one talent still? I don't know. Like, his time towards Buffalo really did not end well, right? Last couple games, he was averaging like 40-something yards a game. Not what you would expect out of a number one. Now, was it because Josh Allen wasn't feeding him the ball? Were they not calling up enough plays for him? I don't really know. But this is the thing with him, though, too, is that he wasn't that productive, and then he becomes kind of like a cancer or a nuisance in the locker because of his behavior and his attitude. Now, you bring him into Houston, got a young quarterback. Although I don't think C.J. Stroud will be as impressionable, I think he does respect Stephon Diggs. I think he welcomes him in, but I don't think C.J. Stroud is going to be putting up with a lot of this stuff. I think C.J. Stroud, from what it seems like, is a pretty solid quarterback as far as from his mental capacity is stated, right? So I think he's not going to be bullied or pursued because he knows this is his team, and Stephon Diggs is like, hey, man, this is like your third team now in the last couple of years. We really don't need you like that. We'll welcome you, but we don't need you like that. So just play your role here and let's go. So I like what they've done now with this receiving core. Honestly, man, if you look at their receiving core, including tight ends, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, if he can stay healthy, obviously, Stephon Diggs, Dalton Schultz, and then Brevin Jordan, the local kid out of here from Vegas, Bishop Gorman. Arguably, man, that's a tough wide receiving crew / tight end, right? Then you go ahead and add Joe Mixon into the mix, Cam Akers, and they still got Damian Pierce there. Really three good, solid running backs. Joe Mixon signing, maybe on paper looks good, sounds good, right? Joe Mixon is a pretty good household name. but I think he's kind of a similar pair to Dameon Pierce, but we'll have to wait and see. But not a bad pickup. And then their offensive line is really good. As long as Larry Tunsil can stay healthy, I think they'll be good there too. So, but overall, this team definitely has an idea. They have an attitude about them, which is something D'Amico Ryan brought to this organization. Now, a lot of people, including myself, are not too fond of defensive-minded coaches. It just doesn't really work out in the end, right? We'll see. So going into year 2, we'll see if they can improve upon what they did last year, right? Honestly, they did a lot. I don't think anyone expected them to win the division, yet alone even make the playoffs, right? And they did both, right? And won a playoff game. So they have a high ceiling going into this year. There's going to be a lot of fanfare around this organization. I think right now on paper, don't kill me in the comments, on paper, this is one of the top 3 teams in the AFC. In the AFC, at least top 3 or top 4, right? You got to put them behind, Kansas City, Baltimore. Who else is out there? Off the top of my head, honestly, I can't think of anybody else other than them right now, right? Maybe one of the other teams in the AFC North, like I talked about in my last video, they're loaded there too. But honestly, this team has a lot on the side of talent and good coaching, right? So I think they can do a lot. So my win prediction for them this year is going to be anywhere between 11 and 13 wins. I think they can do it. Now, the division itself is not going to be a cakewalk. A lot of people think maybe the AFC South isn't as good, but I think it is really good. And we'll talk about that a little bit more as we talk about these other teams. So I got the Texans at least 11 to 13 wins this year. And we'll leave it at that. So, all right. Let's see. Let's talk about a wild card team, a really, really wild card team, a team that can go either way. The Indianapolis Colts, right? And probably people are thinking, wild card, what do you mean by that? Well, a couple things. And mainly, it always boils down to this. If you've watched the other preview shows or preview videos that I've made recently, it's going to boil down to the quarterback play, man. It really does. And if you do not have a quarterback that's consistent, can make the right plays, make the right calls, throw the ball accurately, you're gonna be in for a long season. Now, Anthony Richardson, by default, it's kind of like an extended rookie. I believe he only played like 3 or 4 games last year before injuring his was his collarbone, I think it was. But before he got hurt, we were seeing some things. Now, some people may disagree with me and say, well, he's athletic, he can get out of the pocket and make things happen, which is part of the game itself, right? Now, he's going to have to maybe learn. I mean, again, he's still kind of a rookie in itself, right? He hasn't played a full season yet. He's going to have to learn to play within the offensive scheme of Shane Steichen, who I believe is a very good coach. Think about it, right? These guys almost won the division. If it wasn't for a Gardner Minshew kind of underthrow into the flat area against the Texans in the final game of the season, the Colts would have been the division champions, if I'm not mistaken. So if Shane Steichen can take that team with a Gardner Minshew, who's now the starting quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders, which is, I'll talk about that on my next video, or I'm sorry, I talked about them already. But either way, he took them to that point without their starting quarterback. The guy can coach. So Anthony Richardson, I felt like I said before, this is a de facto extended rookie season for him. Like I've been telling a lot of people, I kind of believe in the kid. He's athletic enough, given Shane Steichen's ability to coach athletic quarterbacks a la Jalen Hurts. You saw what happened to Jalen Hurts when Shane Steichen left. Didn't look that good. You saw what he was when he was there. Almost an MVP, almost wins a Super Bowl, right? So there's something with that. So I think Shane Steichen will get him right. I think they're going to figure out a way to utilize his skills within their scheme. Now, will it be enough to win playoff games now, to contend for championships? I don't think so. Maybe not quite yet, but we'll have to wait and see. But overall, I really love this roster defensively. I thought they did a good job in the draft. They went and got some of the most athletic guys in all of the draft. Right. But my favorite pick was the kid out of UCLA, the pass rusher, Latu, probably the best pass rusher, like pure pass rusher there was. And I think you pair him with the DeForest Buckner, who's still on that team. I really like their chances. I really do. Offensive line looks pretty good still, pretty solid. They still got Jonathan Taylor. He's got Michael Pittman Jr. to throw to, Josh Downs. So they've got some talent on both sides of the field. Right. And I think this is why they're such a wild card team, because of the quarterback play. But I think Anthony Richardson is just good enough to maybe get them over the hump. So, like I said, I had the Texans at what 11-13. I have the Colts between 8 and 10 wins going into this season. And let me know if I'm crazy. And am I just off base for that? Or am I reaching, or am I just pulling, or am I just like shock bait, or whatever the case may be? I truly believe in my soul that this team could actually be one of the second teams coming out of this division to even make the playoffs. So we'll have to wait and see. But be on the lookout for the Colts being a wild card team. All right. All right. Moving on. We're going to talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars. So the Texans were like the king of the hill, right? The Colts are the I wouldn't say underdog, but like the wild card team. The Jaguars, I think personally, have the most pressure in this division to do well. And why is that? Well, you just, Trevor Lawrence got a huge deal. And in the last couple of years, they've kind of been on the trend down. Like, and I think there's some pressure there. I wouldn't say Doug Peterson, his seat is hot right now, but it might be a little bit warm. And we'll have to wait and see how this season plays out, because they've done a lot in the last couple of years to put themselves in a position, right? You look at Trevor Lawrence. I'm not that high on Trevor Lawrence. I know a lot of people are. He looks the part. Back in college, I was like, oh, Trevor Lawrence, man, this guy is going to be the next Tom Brady, right? But then I won't count the first year in this league for him, because that was during the Urban Meyer debacle in Jacksonville. So, I won't give that against him. Second year was pretty good. Last year, it just didn't really pan out for him, right? And I feel like, and then they paid the guy, right? And now Doug Peterson is looking at, well, man, we basically re-signed a lot of our guys on the defensive side. We've added some talent to the offensive side as well. So we got to make this happen. And for a while, they were one of the top teams in this division. And last year, I believe they finished like 8-9 or 8-8. I forgot what they were, but didn't make the playoffs. And that's not good. Anytime you're going to be paying quarterbacks the amount of money that you're paying Trevor Lawrence, just barely getting by is not going to be enough. And I get it. Quarterback, the market for them is exuberant over most any other position in all of sports. So you got to pay these guys. But when you start paying people, you got to start winning. And like I said, just scraping by, barely trying to win a division is not going to cut it. So that's why this team has so much pressure, in my view, to go out there and get it done. And it's not going to be easy, because, like I said, you got the Texans, you got the Colts, who are formidable teams. And we'll talk about the Titans here in just a second. That's also, I think, another like a sleeper team that people are kind of really not giving them a real look if you look at their talent that they've acquired, right? So we'll talk about them in just a second. But Jacksonville, to me, they've been on a decline. They've been on a decline the last 2 years. And if things don't get done, I think Doug Peterson might be looking for another job, right? And Trevor Lawrence, now they're gonna continue to maybe give him a go, because they paid him, so it's easier to fire the coach. But overall, I think this team definitely has a lot of pressure. Will I think they'll live up to it? I don't think so. I think this is a 7-9 wins team at this point, 7-9. Because I just don't believe in Trevor Lawrence that much, to be honest with you. I really don't. I think he's a little bit overrated, in my opinion. Some people may kill me in the comments for that, but that's just how I feel about it. So prove me otherwise. What has he done really to say, well, you know what? He's a top 5 quarterback in the National Football League. What has he done? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. And I could be wrong. And I'll be the first to say, hey, you know what? I was wrong about him. But I don't know. I mean, one victory against the Chargers, which, I mean, the Chargers under Brandon Staley, they were just dumb. Like, they would always, I was not surprised that they lost that type of game. So other than that, I mean, what has he really done in the league? But it's time to put up or shut up for him, because they're paying you now a lot of money to go out there and win. So, but like I said, the Jacksonville Jaguars, I got them between 7 and 9 wins going into this season. So, but maybe they'll prove me wrong. We'll have to wait and see. All right. Now, finally, we got the Tennessee Titans. This is probably like my sleeper team in this division. And why? Again, it boils down to the quarterback play. Now, Will Levis, well, let's pause for a second. Let's go back. So they hire a new coach. I think Brian Callahan, the son of a legendary offensive line coach, Bill Callahan. Kind of a head scratcher, because he was the offensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals, but did not really call the plays because Zach Taylor did. Now, they may have some other type of dynamic, and I know of a lot of guys that do that too. But I don't know much about Brian Callahan other than those two things. So we'll have to wait and see. I'm not going to get on the guy and say he's a terrible coach, because I don't know. I don't know what he can do yet, but we'll have to wait and see. But hiring your dad or having some input for your dad, who was once a coach in the National Football League and is one of the best offensive lineman coaches that we've had in the National Football League. So you already know off the rip that offensive line is going to be good, especially because their offensive line has not really been good in the last couple seasons. Now, they did go add the kid, I believe, last year, Skoronski. And then they just drafted another kid, Latham. So that should help bolster the interior and outside linemen there. So I have no problems with that. Now, you lose Derrick Henry to free agency. He's now in Baltimore. So a lot of it is going to be boiled down to one guy, the guy that likes mayonnaise a lot, and that's Will Levis. Right now, Will Levis, I think for me personally, if I'm the Titans going into this season, I'm going to kick the tires on him because the kid did show some flashes, right? Very inconsistent, but he kind of showed maybe he can belong. At best, he might be a journeyman or a lifetime quarterback or a backup quarterback, right? But if I'm them, I kick the tires. If it ain't working out, we go to the draft. It's nothing wrong with not just giving up on a guy. That's how I feel personally. I feel like the way kids are developed, especially at the quarterback position, they have so many resources. You don't need to sit in a system for 2-3 years. Now, some people may say, well, look what happened to Jordan Love. Now, look what Patrick Mahomes did. That's great. And those guys maybe outliers, right? But when it boils down to it, guys can play now. You got guys that are staying in college and having like 40 starts in their career, more than enough experience, especially if they're transferring. So they're going from one coach to another offense coordinator to another coach to another offense coordinator. They're getting paid millions of dollars. So they're kind of like mini pros anyway. And they've got like 40, 50 starts in college. So these guys are ready. They played in the biggest games that you can see. Probably even some bigger than some of the regular season games in the National Football League. I'm just being honest with you. So kick the tires on Will Levis. If it doesn't work out, you go to the draft and you get another guy. I mean, look what the Cardinals did. They took Josh Rosen a couple years ago. Literally, they saw like this guy sucks. We're gonna go get Kyler Murray. Boom. And now Josh Rosen, I don't know where he's at. He's working at a TCBY somewhere. I don't know. Okay. So Will Levis shows some flashes, but we'll have to wait and see. But I do like what they've surrounded him with, right? You still got DeAndre Hopkins, who's still a pretty talented wide receiver. You go ahead and get Calvin Ridley, who I love still. So he stays in the division there. So they got some weaponry out there. And then they go ahead and get Tony Pollard from the Dallas Cowboys, who's a nice little a receiving type of back, So not Derrick Henry, but definitely is a formidable running back. And hopefully he can bounce back. Because last year, it wasn't him last year. Like he didn't look like Tony Pollard was, right? He was a shell of himself. I know he came off that leg injury in the playoffs. So the year before against the 49ers, I don't know what happened to him. He didn't heal. He looked awful. He didn't look like the same guy, but he's in Tennessee now. He's at home. Let's see what happens there. So they've got talent on the roster for Will Levis to throw to. It's going to be boiling down to, can the coach? Can Brian Callahan call the plays? I believe he's calling the plays here now. And can Will Levis execute? That's what it boils down to. So that's why I think this is a sleeper team, because they can go either way. They've got a little boom bust in a sense, kind of like the Colts too, a little bit, but more so a sleeper, because a lot of people don't really realize what they've done in the offseason, but a lot of it is going to be depending on what Will Levis does. So as far as win predictions for this team, they're probably in the same range with the Jacksonville Jaguars, 7-9, but I feel like for them, 7-9 might be okay, because if it doesn't work out at quarterback, they're going to be in the draft. Now, I'm not as high on this quarterback draft class this year. There are some guys out there, but they're going to be in the market for a new quarterback. I mean, they just are. Because me personally, my feelings on Will Levis is I don't think it's going to work out for him. I just don't think so. But we'll have to wait and see, and it's not because they don't have talent, because they do. They surrounded him with some pretty good talent. It's going to be up to. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe he goes out, he's a baller. Then I'll come on here and say, you know what? I was wrong. I mean, listen, that's what we do. We make videos to stir up commentary. That's what it is. So let me know in the comment section what you guys think. But this is a sleeper team between 7 and 9 wins going into the next season. So there we go. So now, as far as predictions, you kind of can see where I'm going with this. I got the Texans at number 1. I think they're going to win it, but I think the Colts are not that far behind them a little bit. I think if the quarterback play is really good and solid, the Colts can kind of challenge them. We already saw that last year, that they almost came close to winning the division. And if AR5, Anthony Richardson, can stay healthy, then we'll see what happens with the Colts. So then I got the Colts number 2. I have the Jacksonville Jaguars at number 3. And then rounding out the last team of the division is the Tennessee Titans. And not because I feel like they're gonna suck. Do I think they're gonna be like 2 and something? No, they're not gonna be the Carolina Panthers, right? And don't get me started on them. We'll talk about them in another video here shortly. But because this division is it's a good division. It's a solid division, right? Now 3 of these teams could be double-digit win teams, right? And the Jaguars could move up. They could surpass my expectations for them. But by no means do I think the Titans are a lowly team. I just think for this particular division and for my predictions, they're going to have to just finish last. So there you have it. So we got Texans, Colts, Jaguars, and Tennessee Titans rounding out the AFC South preview. So, but that's all I got today, man. If you really enjoyed the content, man, please make sure you like, follow, and subscribe. Share with your friends, man. As NFL season is upon us, I'll be dropping my next video. It'll be the AFC South, the AFC East. And we'll round out the AFC from there, and then we'll head on over to the NFC right before the season starts. So be on the lookout for that. So until next time, this is your boy Clutch Sports Talk. Like I always say, never settle till the work is done. We'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.